Hey everyone, this is the RS30 SLAM LiDAR scanner from CHC Navigation. Unlike other scanners that need to connect to your phone, the RS30 comes bundled with its own Android tablet. There is no mount for the tablet on the scanner itself, but it does come with a wrist strap. Here's the base plate, just push the handlebar in and it locks automatically and no need to tighten a thumb screw like with other scanners. The scanner comes with 4 cartridge batteries, each equipped with an LED power level indicator. You can charge all 4 batteries at once using the cradle. On the top, the scanner features a large disc-type survey-grade GPS antenna. This RS30 model is equipped with the top-of-the-line Hesai XT32M LiDAR sensors. Just the sensor alone costs over $12,000 and their RS10 model comes with the XT16 sensor instead. At the front, there are 3 5-megapixel RGB photo cameras, but I don't see any dedicated visual SLAM video cameras. Since the battery isn't built into the handlebar, you can remove it and swap in a survey pole instead. It uses a standard female survey pole thread. The RS30 can also function as a regular survey RTK for point surveying and stacking out, but I won't be covering that feature in this video. At the bottom, you will find the battery compartment along with a USB-C port for file transfers. It looks like the RS30 was built with weatherproofing in mind. They have positioned all the sensitive components facing downward to keep rainwater out. Even though you can't use LiDAR for scanning in the rain, you can still carry out point surveys in light rainy conditions. The RS30 was launched in early 2024, so this review sample is now over 2 years old. It also has an issue where it occasionally fails to power on. This happened to me several times during testing and even right here in front of the camera. Sometimes swapping in a fresh battery fixed the issue, but this time it still won't boot up. When I press the battery in firmly with my thumb and power it on, the scanner boots up successfully. In the app, a warning message appears indicating abnormal hardware, specifically a battery error. Then I remind myself this is a LiDAR scanner review, not a hardware troubleshooting video, so I skip that part and just hope the scanner powers on consistently throughout the tests. Comparing the RS30 side by side with its direct competitor, the LiGrip O2, both use the same XT32M LiDAR sensors, which comes in a white casing. The XT16 and XT32 come in a silver casing, and the sensors are slightly larger and about 400 grams heavier. The RS30 has good weight balance, so it can sit directly on a flat table without needing the base plate. This is a compact RTK survey unit, slightly larger than the RS30 antenna. The RS30 weighs 2.1 kilograms, while the LiGrip O2 comes in at 2.3 kilograms. Back at the 3-story house, which I use as my testing site, I'll be evaluating the scan-to-beam capability of this SLAM LiDAR scanner. The startup process is quite straightforward. Set up the project name and choose the scanning scenes. You can also adjust the processing type of that scene later in the post-processing software. Place the scanner on level ground during initialization, which takes about 30 seconds. Because the LiDAR sensor points downward, the large RTK antenna blocks part of the laser beam, and I notice it doesn't capture what's behind me. For a scanner at this price point, I walk forward up this narrow stair. The retail price in the EU is around 36,000 US dollar. So far, this is the most expensive 3D scanner I have ever tested on this channel. The preview screen looks quite decent. The green trajectory indicates that the SLAM loop is in good condition. You can also orbit the preview screen and slice it to view specific elevations. Now I'm doing the loop back. After this, I will move on to post-processing the scan data and check for errors. I conducted the test by walking the same path as with the other scanners I have reviewed, keeping my speed under 1 meter per second. To transfer data to the PC, you need to power off the scanner first. The transfer speed is quite slow, less than 30 megabytes per second. The post-processing software called Copre includes an easy-to-use wizard function. Like other scanners, you can choose SLAM, RTK, or RTK Fusion SLAM for data processing. For this entire test, I'll use the high setting for colorization. And here's the result. The point cloud count is relatively low at only 56 million points, whereas the LiGrip O2 and the Pocket 2 can each produce over 100 million points. I align the first floor level with the bottom edge of the window on the screen. When moving up to the second floor, a visible gap appears, showing that the second floor is not level. Moving up to the third floor, the gap is slightly wider than on the second floor, and the third floor is also not level along the length of the building. Looking at the front view, I can clearly see the building isn't standing straight. It tilts to the right starting from the second floor. Both the second and the third floor are not level across the width of the building. Looking at the wall cross sections, I can see that some wall lines are not straight and others are not parallel, indicating rotational drift failure has occurred. And the point cloud wall thickness is inconsistent. For comparison, I will include the LiGrip O2, which is shown at the top. The RS30 produces only 56 million points, while the LiGrip O2 generates 110 million. For the color detail in the point cloud, the LiGrip O2 clearly shows the ceiling panel lines, while on the RS30 those lines are completely blurred. Extracting dimensions from the RS30's colorized point cloud is very difficult, if not impossible. All the floor levels from the LiGrip O2 are perfectly aligned, and I couldn't detect any errors when inspecting in CAD using parallel lines. The wall line from the LiGrip O2 is about 5 mm thin and consistently uniform, while the RS30 produces thicker and inconsistent wall lines. The wall alignment in the RS30 is poor, caused by the scanner's higher rotational drift failure. On the second floor, the RS30 produces thicker, inconsistent point cloud walls with reduced orthogonality and weaker parallelism. Let's add the Pocket 2 into the comparison shown on the left. The ceiling board lines are not visible with the RS30, whereas both the LiGrip O2 and the Pocket 2 clearly shows them. Let's compare the Pocket 2 with the RS30. The point cloud wall thickness from the Pocket 2 is about 5 to 6 mm, while its orthogonality and parallelism aren't as precise as the LiGrip O2, it still delivers more accurate than the RS30. The corners in the RS30 appear slightly sharper than those from the Pocket 2 due to the narrower beam of the XT series LiDAR sensor. Let's compare the staircase cross-section here from the RS30. Here's from the LiGrip O2. It appears to be sharper and thinner. And here's from the Pocket 2. From this test, the LiGrip O2 remains the best LiDAR scanner for scan-to-beam in terms of precision. Next in line is the Pocket 2, which performs well but not at the same level as the O2. I cannot recommend the RS30 for this purpose as it is unsuitable for multi-floor and interior scanning. Next, I will test the RTK Fusion SLAM capability of this scanner. To enable this function, you need to select both indoor and outdoor modes. To begin, I'll capture the outdoor area with RTK Enable and lock in a fixed solution, walking in circular loops. After that, I move indoors to scan the 3-floor house. In this test, about 90% of the scanning area is indoors. If the RTK Fusion SLAM feature works as intended, the entire indoor area will be processed using the SLAM algorithm, while the outdoor area will rely on RTK. The use of RTK should not affect the overall accuracy of the scan. Before closing the loop, I'll wait for the scanner to regain a fixed RTK solution. The coordinate projection isn't selected automatically. Just like the Pocket 2, you have to set it manually each time. With RTK Fusion SLAM, every point in the point cloud is tagged with GPS coordinates. The floors remain slightly unlevel, but the deviation isn't worse than with a pure SLAM loop. This shows that RTK Fusion SLAM on the RS30 operates without any issue. Now let's examine the accuracy when scanning in RTK only mode. At the back of the car, the point cloud appears very blurred. However, the 30-meter distance reads 30.006 meters, meaning the RTK delivers only a 6 mm accuracy error. The reason the car appears blurred is that RTK provides strong accuracy in the horizontal plane, but when you examine the vertical plane, there is a noticeable shift, typically more than 5 cm. When scanning with a loop back, you will notice the ground level doesn't align correctly. Next, let's evaluate the accuracy of the RTK Fusion SLAM. At 30 meters, the reading shows 30.025 meters, which equals a 25 mm error, while RTK Fusion SLAM slightly reduces horizontal accuracy. It completely corrects the ground level shifting error. If vertical accuracy is critical, I recommend using RTK Fusion SLAM while it introduces a constant error in a horizontal plane. That error does not increase as the scanning area expands. When there is no vertical shift, the car appears much sharper. Here's a scan data process with SLAM only. The 30-meter distance reads 29.993 meter, which yields just 7 mm of error. In areas with high feature density, SLAM consistently produces the most accurate results in both the horizontal and vertical planes. Now I'm testing a large single SLAM loop 560 meters long. The RS30 can generate accuracy error reports. However, in every test I have conducted, the reports always claim 100% of the data is accurate within 1 centimeter, which simply isn't possible. When checking the 30-meter distance, it reads 30.015 meter, which equals a 15 mm accuracy error. So the outdoor accuracy error in a single large loop without RTK is still very good with the RS30. Here's a scanning of a shopping mall with a trajectory length of over 1 kilometer. I will use this dataset to compare the colorized point cloud results against the LiGrip O2 and the Pocket 2. Over this signage, the LiGrip O2 produces noticeably higher detail and a denser point cloud. The Pocket 2 also delivers a better colorized point cloud over this signage. Once again, the LiGrip O2 delivers superior point cloud quality. Despite having a 2 megapixel camera, the Pocket 2 still produces better point cloud quality than the RS30, which comes with a 5 megapixel camera. The ground traffic signage appears much sharper with the LiGrip O2. The RS30 captures more ground detail than the Pocket 2, and the ground traffic signage appears clearer with the RS30. Once again, the LiGrip O2 produces a much sharper colorized point cloud. I believe this comes from the precise synchronization between its RGB camera, LiDAR, and IMU sensors. Here the Pocket 2 also produces a better colorized point cloud than the RS30. Looking at the siding detail, the LiGrip O2 reveals more definition and finer point cloud quality. The Pocket 2 produces better results despite having a shorter range LiDAR sensor. And here comes the conclusion. Once again, this is not a sponsored video. Many of you requested that I review and test the RS30 from CHC Navigation. I reached out to them and they kindly lent me this review sample. I made this video entirely for free. Starting with the price, the RS30 retails in the EU at around 36,000 US dollar, while the LiGrip O2 is priced at about 30,000 US dollar. Both units are equipped with the same Hesai XT32M, a top-of-the-line LiDAR sensors. The Pocket 2 price is listed directly on their online store, including the RTK module. The Stair S20 price is listed in the EU market. As for the FJD Tron P2, the retail price I'm quoting here is the one they sent to me directly. On the 100-meter SLAM loop, the RS30 shows quite decent accuracy at a 30-meter distance, on par with the other scanners tested here. On the 560-meter SLAM loop, the RS30 delivers the most accurate results, followed closely by the LiGrip O2. The indoor tracking performance of the RS30 is quite disappointing. The results show errors in wall orthogonality and parallelism, making it unsuitable for interior building scanning in BIM workflows. For floor-to-floor leveling, the RS30 comes out at the bottom. It's the only LiDAR scanner I tested this year that failed the 3-floor house scanning benchmark. I cannot recommend using the RS30 for indoor or multi-floor building scanning. Its performance in this scenario is not reliable enough for a BIM application. The colorized point cloud quality is among the poorest. Despite having 3 5 megapixel cameras, the output is unsharp and blurred, making it unsuitable for extracting dimensions. However, the RS30 mobile app is quite decent. It's easy to orbit and view the scan results with a straightforward and user-friendly interface. The RS30's software license is locked to a single PC. If you want to switch computers, you must contact their customer service to transfer the license. The RS30's point cloud post-processing time is on par with the LiGrip O2 and CHCNAV scanner. The RS30 software interface is difficult to use and not intuitive. However, during testing, I did not experience any failures or crashes. By contrast, CHCNAV scanner left user dealing with a faulty software for over a month without a fix or warning. The RS30 has excellent GPS reception and delivers very accurate results when scanning with RTK. Its antenna reception is noticeably stronger than both the LiGrip O2 and the Pocket 2. The RS30 requires the Insta360 camera to produce 3D-GS, so it was excluded from this test. At present, the LiGrip O2 and CHCNAV RS30 deliver the best 3D-GS results I have tested. The RS30 comes with 512GB of internal storage, which is not expandable. File transfer speeds are also among the slowest I have tested. The RS30 supports RTK Fusion SLAM and it works very well. The use of RTK neither degrades nor improves SLAM loop precision. For hardware reliability, I can only give the RS30 2 stars. The scanner failed to boot up multiple times during testing. By contrast, I never experienced hardware issue with the CHCNAV RS30 or the LiGrip O2. The Pocket 2 did have mobile app connection failure, but those were quickly addressed. In my experience, FJD and Manifold Tech provide fast technical support, while CHCNAV users continue to complain about poor support. For the RS30, support is handled through the dealer, and in the case of hardware issue, the scanner must be sent back to China for service. The RS30 allows the use of a survey pole to collect ground points, similar to the LiGrip O2, but it requires a pole adapter. In contrast, the FJD scanner enables ground point collection directly with its base plate. The emerging trends for LiDAR scanners in 2026 is the integration of cloud platforms. The RS30 has no cloud processing service. By contrast, the LiGrip O2 and FJD scanners offer paid cloud services, while the Pocket 2 provides its cloud service completely free. I'm disappointed that the RS30 comes equipped with the very expensive Hesai XT32M LiDAR sensor, yet its output falls far short for the sensor's potential. This may be due to the scanner being over 2 years old, with an outdated IMU and SoC, limiting its performance. This scanner is long overdue for an update both in hardware and in its SLAM algorithm. Thanks you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.